The 50-yard line at Memorial Stadium is the site of the conclusion of the Lincoln half and full marathons after coming through the southwest doors behind me on the way in. Cassidy says that security will not be a problem at the finish of the marathons. As Pinnacle Bank Arena nears its completion, so too does Memorial Stadium, with East Stadium adding more than 5,000 seats, which will end a heavy run of construction in Lincoln. The Nebraska football program has 5 national championships, 3 Heisman Trophy winners, and is one of the top 5 winningest programs of all time. Hundreds of football players have walked through this tunnel to play in front of 80,000 plus fans on Saturdays in the fall at Memorial Stadium. And while some will go on to the NFL, most are forced into life after football.
Originally, I thought I wanted to go into recruiting, but then at that time, you couldn't recruit unless you were a coach.
That's ex-Husker quarterback Steve Taylor, who played in the late 1980s and now works at Home Real Estate.
I was at home one day, had nothing to do, and went through the paper and saw an ad about real estate and said that's really what I was doing while I was playing football. So I took the test, and then I've loved it ever since.
Taylor is among many whose career as a professional player didn't live up to their hopes and dreams, but found a way to move on. Former defensive tackle Ty Steinkuhler moved on too, in finance.
It was a little bit of a tough transition, but being with a popular name in the state of Nebraska, people hear that it opens the doors for a lot of opportunities.
Name recognition not only helped Steinkuhler, but also Taylor and others who moved to business following graduation. Taylor said it's common to go to former teammates if he needs them.
My insurance guy is Tom Banderas, who I play tight end with, so it's ironic that these guys are very good at what they do, and not only were they're pretty good football players, they're very astute, students.
Steinkuhler said football players should keep their eyes open when they graduate to the workforce.
Being a part of the football program, it gets you in front of a lot of interesting people and a lot of people that you probably wouldn't follow that career path without the opportunity to football.
Jake Sorensen reporting for Star City News.
As important as it is to vote, students also need to know what they're voting for. One major issue is the privatization of the health care center. And we go live to Star City's Jake Sorensen with the details. Jake?
Thanks, guys. The UNL Health Center, as we know, will rely on the votes of students tomorrow, whether they know what they're voting for or not.
UNL's Health Center could be seeing a facelift in the near future as the university's population votes on whether or not the center should be privatized tomorrow. Dr. James Guest isn't sure enough information has been given out to students.
If you're going to have a vote, it's better to have an educated vote. If you don't have an educated vote, then most of the populace is going to vote, yes, this sounds good to me, but it's going to be fairly meaningless.
If passed, the vote would permit Brian LGH to assume ownership of the health center and would drive tuition prices up from $250 to $320 in health care fees. Chancellor Harvey Perlman supports the privatization.
An engineering firm told us that we really needed to do something. We either needed to remodel the existing building or build a new one.
This parking lot behind the Beetle Center would be the site of the facility. But while the upgrades may be helpful, do students really know what they're voting for tomorrow? And do you understand what would happen if you were to vote yes for the Healthcare Privatization Act tomorrow?
I do not know.
If you knew more about it, do you think you would be more tempted to vote yes or no on it?
I would be able to make an educated decision, yes.
I've heard slight things through Twitter and Facebook here and there, and I have a couple friends who are kind of in that, but not in detail or anything.
Students may not be affected greatly despite cost, but for those employed at the health center, a change in ownership could cost jobs in the long run.
Current employees are guaranteed a year's employment. After that, it will be on a needed basis.
Now, Dr. Guest did say if the vote does go through, that Brian LGH would potentially take in those who are let go at the health center and hire them on there at the hospital. Reporting from the UNL Health Center, I'm Jake Sorensen for Star City News. Nebraskans may be affected by sequestration set out by the White House, which could take effect on Friday. President Obama spoke today in Virginia about the issue, which would cause Nebraska to lose about $3.5 million for 40 teachers and staffs who help children with disabilities. In addition, about 180 fewer low-income students in the state would receive aid to help finance the cost of college, and Nebraska will lose $174,000 in funds to help fight against diseases and natural disasters, among many other setbacks.
Thanks, Amelia. One more note, we had an entertainment news tonight before we close up the show. I just saw today that Robert Downey Jr. will not be back as Tony Stark in the second Avengers movie. So Iron Man 3 will be Robert Downey Jr.'s last go as billionaire Tony Stark. Jake.
Interesting. It's certainly going to be a change to, of course, the Avengers and other movies down the road. But we do bring back Chief Meteorologist Ben Dornbach. And Ben, on Saturday, of course, the Husker spring game as it comes every year. Last year, it was canceled due to thunderstorm and rain in the area. Can we expect anything like that this Saturday as well?
I wouldn't count on it. We are expecting some rain showers here going into Saturday.
The days of the early offseason in college football comes to an exciting end tomorrow. Nebraska, along with all other college teams, will receive letters of intent from its commits from recruiting in a class that is highly touted by most recruiting outlets. The Huskers sit at 25 in its recruiting class with news today of a commitment from the Husker football team received a scare yesterday as junior star running back Amir Abdullah suffered a tweaked knee in practice. Head coach Bo Pelini said Monday Abdullah, quote, will be back in time for spring. Whether we let him do that, I don't know. It gave us a little scare, but not a big deal. The Huskers faced the same fears with Rex Burkhead last season, but Pelini said the injury is nothing like that. The team will continue to practice next week for the upcoming April 6th spring game.